Hey everyone, this is Neon Polygons, and today I wanted to make a quick vlog in regards to a system that not many people remember nor were even aware that actually existed, and that's the FM Towns Marty, which came out in January 1993 exclusively in Japan by Fujitsu, but we more commonly know the company in America as Fuji. So this console was historically known as being the first 32-bit CD-based console ever to be released. So it actually predates the PlayStation and Sega Saturn by a full year, and it actually even predates the 3DO by about a few months. So what essentially the system was is it was a consoleized version of the FM Towns PC computer. So the FM Towns PC computer back in the 90s and late 80s was more commonly known as a kind of gaming PC, so to speak. And what this system did was it more or less was able to play a selection, not the full catalog of FM Towns games, but a selection of the game catalog from the FM Towns that it could actually auto boot. Um, Essentially, like there, it would boot up a kind of a compressed format of the OS, as well as boot the game entirely from the disk itself. Now, I only say a certain selection of games, and that's due to memory issues and RAM. That while the FM Towns PC computer, you can obviously expand the computer to have more RAM. This only had a limited amount, so unfortunately, not all the games are compatible. In addition, what makes this console very unique is that it actually has a diskette drive. So some games actually you cannot play unless you actually have both the diskette and the CD ROM itself to play along. Taking a quick look at the controller, it's kind of odd because this came after the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis was released. And you got to remember that this was the era of fighting games. So a lot of games were coming out with like 6 buttons or required the full use of 6 buttons. And yeah, from Towns Marty surprisingly only has 2 face buttons and 1 shoulder button, which is a little odd of a choice, but I guess for more simplistic games such as like shooters, a 2 button controller with 1 shoulder is enough to suffice. But obviously that's a little bit of an oddity being considered that this was released in 1993, well into the fighting game genre boom of the early 90s. So a little bit look at the console. It is huge. It is quite heavy actually. I wouldn't say it's at the weight of the original Xbox, but when I first picked it up, I was actually quite surprised at how heavy the system was. For comparison's sake, I probably would say the Atari Jaguar and the FZ10 model of the Panasonic 3DO are significantly less in weight of the system. Now, when I got this system, this was actually what you're looking at here is the second unit I've had to purchase. The first unit that I got, I had it shipped to me actually via Thailand, and upon getting it, it just wouldn't work. I could barely even get a music CD to actually boot up on this, let alone a game that I purchased separately. Luckily, I was able to find a US seller, and I was able to get this unit that you see here back in 2016. Now, when I first got this console, I thought I knew every console that was ever released. And surprisingly, this console kind of caught me by surprise that I only discovered it, relatively recently or relatively recent in 2015. So it's been a big deal of mine to kind of get this console and, to have it in my collection. And I do think it's a pretty neat system, but I don't think, in all honesty, that it's a system worth collecting for or actually even worth obtaining. You'll see numerous YouTube videos out there describing how much of a pain in the ass that this system can be, or how much a pain in the ass that the hardware, how delicate it can be. Obviously, I experienced that firsthand with one of the consoles that I purchased being kind of dead on arrival. And let's just say you kind of get a machine that's like partially working. It's very difficult to repair. In fact, all of the parts for the CD laser itself are pretty much irreplaceable, so you'll just have to buy a new unit. For the diskette drive itself, you might be able to the more common problems is kind of the belt eroded, so you might be able to replace that. And really kind of the next option with this is to kind of get a ODE, or a disk emulator, so to speak. And those don't come cheap either. They're about maybe about $500 to $600, and the wait, the wait order, or the wait time for getting one of those is, as little as a year and as high as 2 years. So it's not exactly an easy system to get. You may have seen from Video Game Esoterica's video that this is a connoisseur's console, and that is indeed true. This is a console for, I would say, kind of really the hardcore collector, in essence, like the elitists of gaming aficionados. So this isn't really a system that, if you're kind of just trying to explore retro gaming, this is not that system. This isn't the system for you. Most of the catalog you can play elsewhere at, probably at, better formats now, in all honesty, or better versions. And, to be frank, you're not going to be able to get the full ability or the full accessibility to the entire FM Towns catalog. So there's only a select number of games. And as far as exclusives, really only, in my opinion, really only one exclusive stands out, and that's Truxton 2, which can be played on MAME now. So this is a system that, in all fairness, it's kind of lost as to like why you should kind of get it in the first place. But nonetheless, it is a system that I am proud to have, and that I have in perfect working condition. So as you'll see here, I'm actually playing a boot disc of Splatterhouse, or not a boot disc, a bootleg disc of Splatterhouse. And the reason behind that is because, quite frankly, the games are really expensive to obtain, and unfortunately, I kind of don't want to spend money on games that I know I can get better versions elsewhere on other platforms at a cheaper, more efficient means. But I did want to try to see some of the highlight gems, and obviously, Splatterhouse is kind of considered arcade perfect on the FM Towns Marty. So one last thing I want to show before I kind of boot up the system is this little inscription here, which I think is beautifully written by whichever copywriter at Fujitsu decided to write this. And the description is: Marty is a powerful ally with the brains it takes to make smart television a reality. With Marty, you can experience a marvelous new dimension in intelligent interactive television performance. Okay, that's a little bit of like a hogwash of words, and it could potentially also just be, in all honesty, a really long translation of what they were trying to originally say in Japanese. But I do think, just reading it, it's very beautifully written, and I do like that it's actually written on the console itself. In all honesty, as a console collector, it's probably one of the reasons I would actually want to keep my FM Towns Marty and collect it, is literally from that little inscription right over here, because it just shows not just from a marketing standpoint, but from the visionary standpoint that these engineers had in designing this system. They did, believe that this system could probably, be more capable than it actually was, and, could lead to some, really great advancements in interactive gaming. So with that said, let's give this puppy a shot and turn it on. So to turn it on, actually, the power button is actually on the side. So here we go. And just to reiterate, I am running a bootleg disc, so it's not exactly perfect performance, as I can best put it. So as you see here, when you kind of load up the game, it kind of runs a compressed version of the town's OS, and as you can see right there, it literally says 1990. So okay, so let's get our Splatterhouse on. So when you set it up, I'm gonna actually display this in low res mode. So this way it runs nicely on a CRT. And let's see, one more thing, see if I can get some audio. Okay, so the music is not great on this, but I'm just gonna start the game. So you hear those weird sounds, that's due to a lot of the, I guess it's running from a bootleg disc, so it's not exactly a perfect, run. And one thing you'll notice is that you don't hear music, right? Again, this is because I'm running a bootleg. The sound effects all sound great. And I'm playing this one-handed, so... Dude just threw up. Anyways, guys, that's my gameplay of Splatterhouse, but just wanted to kind of show you guys a quick footage of having an FM Towns Marty, in my opinion, of, collecting for it, or actually even just getting it in the first place. Again, I don't think it's a system that, unless you have the funds, because these guys don't come cheap. You expect to pay at least $600 for a working unit. So let me just turn this guy off. I don't think again, like I said, I don't think it's a system, that's not for the frugal of collectors. This is, again, a connoisseur's console. It will require a lot of investment. It is very finicky. So, if you are going to collect this system, don't really expect to be playing on it, to be honest with you. Like, this is meant to kind of just be displayed and have more as just a collector's piece, a little bit in a way as a humble brag, so to speak. So I'd love to know your opinions for all of those who have an FM Towns Marty. Leave me a comment below if, your experience with it and, how long you've had it and, your memories owning this system. Again, I've only been an owner of this system, of this console, for about 4 to 5 years. And so my time with it has been very limited, and I can probably literally tell you if I've only probably powered it on, I can count it on less than 2 hands. So it is, again, cool to have, but there does come a lot of caveats with trying to obtain it and trying to actually utilize it. So this is Neon Polygons. Thanks again for watching the video. Let me know your comments below, and I'll catch you all next time.